Hi, this is Mr. Max with Sankofa Mathematics. So I am looking at revision questions for grade 10, grade 11s. You can also use this. I'm going to work on number concepts, some questions on Venn diagrams, some set notation, and some algebraic manipulation. All right, so the very first question that I have here, obviously, it gives you three subjects that are taken by children, grade 10 learners at Kariba Private School. This particular set here is the set of learners who are doing history and then computer science and geography, and you can see there's an overlap between computer science and history as well as computer science and geography. So there are some learners who are doing both these subjects, and only some learners, for example 59 learners here in this region, they only do history, and 43 learners in this region, they only do geography. Okay, now you're given that 12 learners, they took computer science, and now you're supposed to find the value of x. So that means only you go to the set of computer science now. All right, so what we know is that x minus 3 plus x plus 2 plus x minus 2 should give you 12. So the objective is to try to solve that equation. So when you add the x's together, that's x plus another x, gives you 3x. And the nice thing, you can see that the positive 2 and this negative 2 sort of cancel out, leaving you only with that minus 3 equals to 12. So from here on, you can actually solve that equation. So that brings you to 3x is equal to 12 plus 3. Well, I'm just going to come here. So that gives you 3x is equal to 15. And then x would be 15 divided by 3. Therefore, x is giving us 5. All right, so that is the value there. Actually, I can actually also complete this. So x is 5. So this is 5 minus 3, which will give me here 2. And this is 5 plus 2, which gives you here 7. Again, this is 5 minus 2, which gives you here a 3. All right, so you can actually go ahead and fill in those missing values. So 7 doing only computer sciences, 2 of them are doing computer science and history, 3 of them are doing computer science and geography, 43 are doing only geography, 59 are doing only history. Okay, all right. Now, the second question says, how many learners were in grade 10 this particular year? So basically, the ones in yellow that I've indicated are the ones that you are going to be adding. So you're going to go say 59 plus 2 plus 7 plus 3 plus 43. Okay, you can go ahead and grab a calculator. You should get 114 learners. Then they say, find the learners who only took one subject. Now, the ones who only took one subject are like the 59 over here. They only took one subject. The 7 over here, they only took one subject. And the 43 over there, they only took one subject. So we have to add those values together. Okay. So that will give me 59 plus 7 plus 43. Of course, you will have access to this paper that I gave to my learners to help them with revision. You can get it from the Google Classroom. Everything will be in the description below. Okay, all right, so adding all of that gives us here 109. Okay, so those learners only did one optional subject. The learners who did two optional subjects only is where you have the overlap, okay? So it's this two here, because these learners, they did computer science as well as history. And these three learners here, because they did computer science and geography. So is that 2 plus 3? Those would be the learners who took two optional subjects only. So that would be 2 plus 3 in this particular case. The answer is 5. All right, so that brings me to the second question. So this question is on proportion. And I hope you still remember how to approach this type of question. So it says W varies inversely as the square root of x. When x is equal to 4, w is also equals to 4. You need to find w when x is equal to 25. So first of all, we need to um, work out what type of proportion. It says inverse proportion. So that is w is proportional to the inverse of the square root of x. So we need to come up with an equation where we calculate the constant of proportion. So I'm going to use the letter K for that. And we have information here. They say w is 4, and they also say that x is 4. All right. So all of this is done to give us the value of k. So k is going to be 4 multiplied by the square root of 4, which you can calculate as 4 times 2. Therefore, the constant of proportionality is nothing but 8. So our equation now is w is equal to 8 over the square root of x. So now we go back to the information we are given. They say when x is 25, we need to find w, so that's 8 over square root of 25, which is the same as 8 over 5, which is 1, and 3 over 5, or you can leave it as a decimal. Okay, so that is the steps necessary for you to solve that question. Question 3, a little bit of money questions that I have included here. I also included in this paper, you will see something on the interest, compound interest questions, as well as simple interest question. Of course, this one says the price of a DVD player was 850 Namibian dollars after an increase of 10%. So an increase of 10% represents 100% plus 10%, that represents 110%. So what that means is 110% is equivalent to 850, what the price is now, but I'll put an X here because we don't know what the price was before. Okay, so because the idea here, because you don't know the original amount, is for you to remember that this question has to deal with reverse percentage, but it's not always obvious for students to get that. Okay, so we can come up here with cross multiplication. That is going to be 110. X is equal to 110, or 100 times 850. Okay, so maybe I should exactly show you where the reverse percentage comes in, because 100 is on top, 110 will be under, and then you multiply by 850. Ideally, you get the product here and you divide by 110. Okay, so once you do that, you're going to get a value of 772.72, and so on and so on. So of course, the 72 keeps on recurring. So here we'll take 772 and 73 cents, or anything that is rounding up to 773 will also be acceptable. Okay, anything rounding to 773, because this is 3 significant figures, as long as you remember that the price here is going to be less than what it is, because that 850 represents an increase of 10%. Question 4, I have another question here on Venn diagram. So it shows the number of students who took business, represented by the letter B, human resources, represented by the letter H, and community development, this is represented by C at a college in Windhoek. 100 students took all these 3 courses, so the universal set is equal to 100. Okay, right, so they want you to find the value of C. So it's very particular that what you need to do is you need to add all of these values here, okay, with the X. You add them all up and you let that equal to 100. So basically it's 15 plus 15 plus 10 plus 10. I'm writing it out so that maybe you can get it. Well, that should equal to the universal set of 100. So once you add all of this, you get 70 here plus x is equal to 100. So x would be 100, take away 70, and that gives us that the value of x is 30. Okay, right. So I will just go ahead and write my 30 in there. Right, so the second part of the question says the number of students we are supposed to find, how many students took human resources. Well, that is quite straightforward. You just go to the set that represents human resources and you just add 10 plus 10. plus 5 plus 15, well, that gives you 40. Okay. Right, so that brings me to a third question. So this is kind of very important that you have the diagram, and then you can also consider what this question involves. So for 1 mark, perhaps it could have been more, but remember, this is also a question that sort of guides you on so many things. So um, we're looking for the cardinal value of B intersection C intersection the complement of H. Okay, right. So there it's very technical. So I suggest maybe you find a better area to work. So I'm just going to bring in that particular question maybe where I have space. So perhaps I can say, okay, let me see if I bring in um, an extra page. Okay, so let's just gonna insert a page, and we're gonna work with this page here. So what this question is asking of us is n, the number of elements of B intersection C intersection complement of H. So that is the Roman, uh, the third one that is in there. Okay, so I'm just going to bring back my diagram. So let me just go to the Word document and see if I can get it. Just hang on with me. Um, the test I gave to the grade 10s. So I like to work with the diagram there. So I'm going to grab the diagram, and I'm just going to paste it onto the document I'm working on. So I'm going to go and paste it over here. Well, okay, so that brings us where I need to be. Right, so from our work before, we also determined that the value of x was nothing but 30. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do B intersection C first, okay? So B intersection C, so if I have to write everything of B down, well, that's 15, 15. Well, I can add them, but I'm just going to write them out as elements for now. 10, 10. So that's everything in B. And intersection of C, in C, I'm going to have 15, I'm going to have 10, I'm going to have 5, and I'm going to have that 30, of course. All right, so one of the things you should remember is this here, we are looking at what do they share. So, of course, you see they share 15. So I'm going to write this as a 15 that is common. They also share a 10. Can you see that? That is common over there, and that's basically all. This one has a 5, no 5 there, and so on. So this is what they share. Okay, right. So that would be this B intersection C. So what I'm also going to do is I'm going to find the complement of H, things that are not in H. Well, it's very straightforward. It's 15, 15. So I'm here, not in H, as well as the 30. Okay, right. So now I can actually go ahead and say B intersection C intersection what is not in H. Okay, so I'm going to get to the number of students, which means I'm going to add the number of students. All right, so I'm going to have this from my work that I have over here. So that is 15 here, 15 here, 10 as well as 10. That is, no, let me just correct that. That is the elements of B. The answer I'm looking for is here. So this here represents B intersection C, which is 15, comma 10. Okay, and the sharing of what is not in H, so of course I calculated that before, that's 15, 15, and 30. All right, so we now have to look at what do they share, okay, okay, because this, remember, what do they share? Well, when you look at it like what they share, it's going to be only um, they only share then a 15. Agree with me? Okay, so since this is the number of students, we then have our answer for our part in our um, test or in our question that we needed. So in this particular case, if I go down to the question, so we know now that this here is 15, okay, or 15 students if you wish to write in the word students. Okay, so we're going to look at the next one, that is the cardinal value of B union C intersection of H complement. Okay, so I'm going to go back to that page that I worked on because the diagram is still over there. All right, so I'm just going to write in. So that was number of B union C intersection with H complement. Now I know that I have got H complement from over there, so that is going to assist me greatly in what I have there. Okay, so let me just see if I can bring my diagram, because it's a bit my diagram is a bit up there. So let's just bring the diagram down a bit so it can make it a bit easy for me to work um, on it. Okay, all right, so this is where we are. So let's write in the complement of H. So I'm just going to write it, maybe I'm going to use black. So um, the complement of H is 15 as well as 30. Remember that was 30 over there. Okay, and intersection. Now, so I'm going to find B union C, so I'm going to get to this part later on. So I'm just doing now B union C, that is B and C together. So if I list those elements together of B and C, well, of course it's 15 comma 15 comma 10 comma 10 comma 30 comma 5. All right, this is the union of those, what is there. All right, so we're going to have, now we're going to look at, again, to keep on using this word, what is it that they share. Okay, so they are sharing, again, let me just have a look at it, because we are looking at, they are sharing a 30. Okay, so I'm going to have 30. They're also sharing a 15. Can you see that? So you only write it once. You do not write it twice. Okay, the 15, because you only write it once. So they're sharing a 15, and they're sharing um, uh, what is it? The 30. So, of course, in terms of now calculating the number of students for our answer, it has to be that 30 plus the 45. So, if I just go back and I have to write it in, it has to be the 30 plus 40 plus 15. I just have to correct that because I was now giving the answer. So, that's 30 plus 15, which is 45 students. All right. So it's a bit of work that you need to do on the diagram itself, or you find a place where you can do it, and then from there on, it sort of get much easier. I just want to go back to the union of B union C, right? So just to go back to my B union C, so it's 15, 15, 10, 10. That's B and C. So maybe just to rectify a bit, so let's write down everything that is in B, because again, I'm actually looking at this scenario, and I just want to make sure you get what I'm doing here. So the elements of B would be 15, 15, and 10, and 10. Okay, and the elements of C would be the set of, well, that's 15, that's 10, that's 30, and that's 5. All right, so if we now have to find the union, because I just remember there that perhaps I wrote certain things twice. So the union here would be everything together, so that's 5 and 10, but you're going to write that 10 only once, okay? And 30 and 15, okay? So that would be only the consideration. So basically, what I had here, I was supposed to replace that, so I can just make sure that we have the right information. That would have been the 15 over here, the 10, um, the 5, and the 30. And again, it would then be easy for us to see what they're sharing would be 15, of course, and the 30. And that is how you add. All right, so that's how I get to my 45. Okay, it's quite a lot of work for 1 mark question, but it's worth it you can find easier ways to find the solution. Question 5, something about limits of accuracy. So you have got the side of a square. The square is 6.3 centimeters and it's correct to the nearest millimeter. So maybe you should know that 6.3 centimeters, if you multiply it by 10, that gives you 63 millimeters. Okay, and when you're told to the nearest millimeter, so 1 millimeter, if you divide it by 2, that will be 0.5. Okay, uh, or yeah, if you have to work with that, and then obviously you can add that to 63. So for example, the upper bound would then be 63 millimeters plus 0.5, which gives you 63.5 millimeters. Okay, and that translates to 6.35 centimeters, for example. Okay, so I'm going to do the same for the lower bound. So the lower bound is going to be, because it's 6.3 corrects to the nearest, so the lower bound, the LB, would be 63 millimeters minus 0.5, which gives you 62.5 millimeters. But this then translates to 6.25 centimeters. Okay, so I just had to bring that in because it might assist us a bit with solving certain scenario. Okay. So what the first question here is ask calculate the value of u, and u is the lower bound. So since u is the lower bound, it's then 6.25. Okay. You can actually go ahead and write in centimeters there. Okay. Then V, they want us now to take V, which is our upper bound, so that's like 6.35 minus 6.25. Well, you get an answer of 0.1 centimeter or 0.1 centimeters. Okay. All right, so that takes care of question 5. Question 6, again, I said I'll bring in questions that involve some interest. Roderick wants to invest, and I've bolded compound interest here as well as the amount, because if you use the formula for compound interest, which is 1 times 1 or A equals to the principal being the 2,000 that the person is investing, okay, plus the percentage, 1 plus it's 4%, and then you raise all of that to the power of 2. You can grab your calculator for that. So that's 2,000, open bracket 1, plus, well, it's 4%. All of that should be raised to the power of 2, which is the number of years, and you get your answer, $2,163.20. Okay, so that would be the amount that you get. Question 7 is asking for simple interest. So Sophie invests. So please make sure you understand formula for simple interest. And the formula is you take that 4,500, you multiply it by the percentage, which is the rate, and then by the number of years. So straight up multiplication should not give you much of a problem. So you say 4,500 times 1.5%. Now, then you multiply that by 8, well, you get 540. So 540 is the interest, because the question is asking for interest. And this particular question, if I was asking for the amount, then you would now take that interest that you have calculated and added it with the 4,500, because that would now imply how much the person has now gained. What is the amount? But in this particular case, it's not asking for the amount, but it's only asking for interest. So when you get questions on compound interest as well as questions on simple interest, make sure you understand what the question is demanding of you, because it's not always going to be bolded or underlined to capture your attention. Question 8, a little bit of algebra, factorization. So this one factorized completely. Of course, the common factor here is 2. You take that 2, you put it outside the bracket, then you have 2m plus n. 1 mark for doing that. Remember, you're just factoring. So what you can do is you can always multiply back to see if you are getting the same 2 terms. So from 2 terms to 1 term, basically, that's what this is. All right, so this is the difference. This here is the difference of two squares. I'm just going to say of two squares or between two squares of two squares, and I hope you know how to factorize that. So 4 is the square of 2x squared, and 25 is the square of 5x squared. So now what you can do is you can actually now drop those squares there, and everything that is out there you're gonna now say 2x minus 5y in its own bracket, and the same thing 2x but just with a plus 5y in its own bracket. Okay, here you have to factorize by grouping because you have got 4 terms, and grouping either work with 4 terms, 6 terms, must be even number of terms. And here the way we were factorizing is just by taking out a common factor. Okay, so we're going to take them in pairs. That's why I said grouping. So what is common between these two terms is y, and everything p plus t will be outside. And what is common in these two terms here is 2x and then p plus t. All right, so now the way you're going to write it is you're going to put p plus t in its own bracket, and you're going to go put y plus 2x in its own bracket. Again, it doesn't matter which bracket you write first. You're multiplying ultimately, and the product will be the same. So that is something worth remembering. Okay, so p plus t, y plus 2x, could have swapped the brackets, doesn't really matter. Okay, when you look at the second one, it's also grouping, but you have a little bit of to deal with a negative term. So here, between these two, obviously 3x is common, and that's going to give you 3y plus 1. So you also expect 3y plus 1. Okay, so what you need to take out here is a common factor of negative, so negative is also common, and negative 4z. Okay, so the one bracket will be 3x minus 4z, if you have to write it like that, or 3y plus 1. Okay, so these are your two brackets. Again, my point, it does not matter how you arrange the brackets as long as you factorize from those 4 terms to one term. Okay, so this is here involves a little bit of long division. And maybe just to introduce you to something we call the remainder theorem. Okay, so what you can do is you take that divisor of x minus 4, you let it equal to 0, then x is equal to 4. And what you are now going to do is you're going to put a 4 into everywhere where you have an x into the function. So what that does, it then gives you the remainder. Okay, so it's one way of you checking what the remainder would be. So that's 4 over here. Everywhere we have an x, I'm replacing those x's with the 4 that I have calculated. Okay, that is going to assist me with finding what the remainder would be. Okay, so you can go ahead and you can punch that on your calculator. Okay, so it's going to be 4 cubed. I can, no need to put it in brackets, but you can put it in brackets. Well, plus 5, I'm going to put this in brackets, so that's 4 squared, and minus 32 in bracket. I've got 4 and minus 7, so I'll get a remainder of 9. So my remainder should be 9. Okay, so that takes care of that problem. So if I now do my long division, I already know what is it that I'm expecting my remainder to be. So let's use long division, which is x minus 4. And under here, I'm going to have x cubed plus 5x squared minus 32x. Remember, if you're missing a term, let's suppose one of these terms were not there, like if the x squared term was not there, I would have said plus 0x squared, just to keep it there as a place value. All right, so maybe you can introduce some side work if you are doing this. So you're going to take the first term, which is x cubed, we're going to divide it by x, and that gives you x squared. And we're going to multiply x squared times x, that gives us x cubed. X squared times negative 4, that gives me minus 4x squared. I'm going to go and put this in brackets, and I'm going to subtract. Okay, the x cubes, they cancel. Now you must be careful here. 5 minus negative 4 is 9x squared. So before I do anything, I'm going to bring down the minus 32x. So the way we work is we are going to divide in this type of order. So my next side work now becomes 9x squared, divide again by that x over there, well, you get 9x. So positive 9x. You can see it all the terms are going nicely down there in terms of their degree. So 9x times x, that gives you 9x squared. 9x times negative 4, that gives you minus 36x. Again, I'm going to put brackets because I need to subtract. These 9x squares, they cancel. But here you have a minus 32, and this is becoming a positive because a negative and a negative gives you a positive. So 36 minus 32, well, that gives us 4x. So before I do anything, let's bring that negative 7 down. So again, this is going to be another scenario of where I am going to use my side work. It's very important that you do this, all right, so you don't make a mistake. So you have got your 4x. Again, you divide it by x, right, and that gives you nothing but 4. Okay, so just want uniformity there so you can see how is it that we work. So that gives you positive 4 over there, and 4 times x gives you 4x, and 4 times negative 4, well, that gives you negative 16. Go ahead and subtract, and here's the beauty. If you are subtracting, obviously the 4x is cancelled, but if you get here, and I'll bring in the calculator so you can see. So if you press negative 7 minus negative 16, guess what? You get 9, which is our remainder from before. All right, so that is the way to do it. Of course, you can also use synthetic division, and I'm just going to go ahead and do that also. So remember, if you go back to what is our dividend x cubed plus 5x squared minus 32, I'm just going to write it on top here. So we have, let's bring in red, we have got x cubed plus 5x squared minus 32x minus 7. So you see I already did this one here. Now we're going to look at the coefficients. The coefficient here is 1, hence I have already wrote it down. The coefficient here is 5, so I'm going to bring that 5 in there. The coefficient here is minus 32, and I already did this one here. Okay, so just as a guiding for the students. Of course, the 4 here is, we got it by taking that x minus 4 and let it equal to 0, and we have x minus 4. So that's where that comes from. Then the arrow indicates you must bring this down, and then you multiply. So you're going to say 4 times 1, well, that gives you 4, and we are going to add, so that gives you 9. You're going to multiply again, and 4 times 9, well, that's 36. And then you're going to add again, well, that's going to give you 4. And again, you're going to multiply, and 4 times 4, well, it gives you 16. And again, if you add, you're going to get 9. Okay, so I hope you see something. So when we bring down our answer from before, was nothing but x squared plus 9x plus 4 with a remainder of 9. Of course, these coefficients of 1 is the coefficient that is here, this 9 is the one that is here, this 4 is the one that is here. Of course, that be our remainder. Okay, we do not really write the one there, but just know it's there. Okay, so whichever one is assisting you, but remember, you can only use, and I'll say preferably for you, use only synthetic division if you have x plus some number or x minus some number. There should not be any other coefficient in front of the x except a positive one. Then you can use this method of synthetic division. Otherwise, the advice would be just go ahead and use long division, which you should master anyway, because it's not always a guarantee that your divisor will be x minus some number or x plus some number. All right, so question 10, I threw in a few of these questions here. So for you to expand, well, it could take a little bit longer for some people to realize this answer is nothing but a minus b. But of course, maybe you can go ahead and multiply, and that will be a. But remember, when you multiply, you add the indices, okay? And you're going to have here plus a raised to the power of a half. You have got, let me take that off, write it just nicely. So you've got plus a raised to the power of a half times b raised to the power of a half. Now you go to the second term, and maybe bring in a different color. You take this minus b, you're going to multiply it with each term in the second bracket. So I'm going to write them alphabetically. So I'm going to have a raised to the power of half, b, it's minus now, raised to the power of half. Okay, you could put the b in first. And then you're going to have minus, because a negative and a positive gives you negative, and then b raised to the power of half times b raised to the power of half. Here you can add the indices. All right, so anyway, that gives you a raised to the power of 1. And here's the beauty. These terms here in the middle, they cancel out, okay, because they're opposites of each other, so they cancel out. And I'm going to left with b raised to the power of 1. So at the end of the day, it's just a minus b. Remember that it's a half plus a half is 1. That's why I have those ones over there. This one requires a little bit more work, okay? And be very careful that you don't just say square this and square that. It means 16 minus 4, and this bracket here should multiply by itself. 3x minus 2, 3x minus 2. Well, I'm going to take a different approach, perhaps just to allow for consistency. I'm going to find, if I multiply these brackets, what is the value that I'm going to get. Okay, also note how I'm using my brackets. Of course, this is going to give you uh, 9x squared. So that's give you 9x squared, because that is 3x times 3x. And here you have got 6x, so it's minus 6x. And if you do the same here, you get minus 6x. And if you negative and a negative, that gives you a positive 4. Well, of course, this is 16 minus 4, and inside I have 9x squared minus 12x. Take note of the like terms over there. Okay, so there are like terms here. These two are like terms, and they are obviously simplifying to that. All right, so now I can remove the brackets, the parentheses. So I can remove the brackets. So that means 16. But now take note, I'm multiplying each term over here by a negative number. So that's going to be negative 4 times 9. Well, that gives you minus 36x squared. And then I have a negative times a negative. So that gives you a positive. And 4 times 12 is nothing but 48x. Please take note so you don't make mistakes. And then you have a negative 4 times a positive 4. So that will be negative 16. Of course, if you now have to look at it, you will see that for starters, the like terms, the 16 and the negative 16, obviously they are cancelling out. Okay, just want to see if there is something else that I've missed. All right, so doing my calculation. So that is 16, so that's negative 36, positive 48x, and 4 times 4, well, 4 times 4 is nothing but 16. So at the end of the day, you are left with 48x minus 36x squared, or you could have written it the other way around with the minus 36x in front, x squared in front. But I prefer to write it in this order. Okay, all right, so that takes care of that question. So I hope this was really useful for the learners who are preparing themselves for the midterms exams, to assist you to prepare, sort of revise your work. So grade 10 and grade 11 learners can use this. All right. Good luck with your studies, and stay tuned for more videos.